On this episode, why we should be proud to change our minds, to change direction on this journey to a water-sensitive future. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro, and welcome back to another That's Like WSUD episode, where we take an idea or a concept that we've read about, heard about, and apply that back to water-sensitive urban design so that we can learn from it and apply it in our day-to-day work. Today's concept, just like in the last episode, comes from Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, Gary Vaynerchuk is best known as a social media personality, as an entrepreneur, an angel investor, a businessman. And this comes from an episode of his. He does an online series on YouTube called Daily V. For episode 166 of Daily V, Gary makes a statement in there where he essentially says that one of the things that he is most proud of about himself is that he changes his mind. And he goes on to say that in entrepreneurship, so in the world that he works, and we'll relate this back to WSUD in a second, in the world that he works, changing your mind is incredibly important.
But I think one of the things I'm most proud of is I changed my mind. Like, to me, changing your mind is such an important part of entrepreneurship, such a big part of my strategy. I don't fall in love with anything. Obviously, keeping your word is different than changing your strategy or your mind, and so I'm always balancing that. Please don't get those two things confused.
In this world of entrepreneurship, you are starting, you come to decide to start a business and you have a vision of that, but you are starting with essentially nothing to begin with. And you need to take a journey from one to the other, up this path to get there, from nothing to the vision, to something. And you're going to try different things and they're not all going to work, and you're going to have to tick and tack in order to get there. And you're going to have to change your mind as you go to get there. And if you don't do that, if you are incredibly, insanely lucky, you'll have success for a short period of time and then you'll fail. This is me ad-libbing on top of Gary's thoughts here. This is my interpretation of why this is important, by the way. But most likely, so if you're incredibly lucky, you'll get some short-term success and then you'll fail because you'll miss the mark, because you'll need to change something and you won't change. Or you'll just get no success straight away anyway because you'll just miss the mark and you won't adapt. So it's super important to adapt so that you tick and tack your way to that end goal. So let's apply this to water-sensitive urban design. There are some really nice parallels here between entrepreneurship and water-sensitive urban design. Entrepreneurship being having an idea, starting at nothing, and taking through business, yourself and or your company to get to that point. While the journey of water-sensitive urban design that I feel that we're on is not so different, I have this long-term vision of water-sensitive urban design about ecologically resilient landscapes, ecologically resilient waterways, waterways that are nice for people to be around, these waterways being in urban areas, the urban areas themselves being really nice because we've used water appropriately in the landscape. But you only have to go back, 10 years. I know water-sensitive urban design as a concept has been around for just over 20 years now, but you only have to go back 10 years in southeast Queensland, where I'm from. And it had very, very limited application. It has quite limited application still now, in my opinion, but it had very little application only 10 years ago. So only 10 years ago, we were essentially at nothing, or very nearly nothing, and now we're tracking towards this end goal. But here's the thing, to set us out on this journey, people had to make policy decisions to start with. They had to go, okay, based on what we can see today, what is the most logical first steps to take to start us trending in the right direction? And they did that. Examples of this are like the stormwater treatment objectives that we have. So in Queensland, they're set out in the state planning policy and then kind of enforced through local government planning schemes. Well, in many respects, those popped up, those sorts of objectives popped up in a few local government planning schemes early, then a couple of state government documents, then some other local governments picked up little bits of it. Then the state came out with the state planning policy, which is a statewide document, then other local governments have picked it up. But the creation of those objectives was a first step in the right direction. And they first popped up a decade ago. That's quite a long time ago. The state planning policy popped up about 5 years ago. I'm recording this in early 2017 to give you some context. And so those got us first step heading in the right direction. But here's the thing, it's been 5 years since then, and some stuff has worked really quite nicely. We're doing a much better job at treating stormwater. We're doing a much better job at getting new developments to set land aside for this. but stuff's still not fitting into the landscape quite the way it is, quite the way we'd like on all occasions. Some stuff doesn't work, so we get some of the fine details wrong with it. Bigger issue problems here is that even if everyone was meeting the current objectives perfectly, we're still letting our waterways degrade. There's still some issues with it. So at some point, if we're going to learn from Gary's statement, which is, hey, as an entrepreneur, the thing that we should be most proud of is the ability to change our mind, then I think this is sending us a message in water sensitive urban design that now is the time to go, hang on. We made completely logical, like as an industry, collectively, we as an industry as a whole, made totally logical decisions to implement stormwater objectives the way we have back when we did, and they've led us to a certain point. But here's the thing, we need, like now is the time we've learned enough, we need to be big enough to go, okay, those objectives are no longer right for us, time to change our mind, and not just a little tweak. Because at the moment, I can imagine, I suspect a bunch of people are watching this and going, wait, we already are changing our mind, we're looking at offsets, we're looking at changing the thresholds. You know, that's not quite what I mean. And this ties back into the last episode where we tied into Gary's idea of the clouds and the dirt. I suspect that's not what Gary has in mind when he talks about changing his mind. I suspect that he's talking, particularly proud of, being able to change really high level strategies. Because I think in the video, in episode 166 of Daily V, I think he then goes on to talk about not falling in love with any idea. And it's the love use of the word that makes me think that this is like not getting really hooked up on it, like being prepared to give away even the biggest high level ideas. And this is where I'm getting at. I think the stormwater objectives, as an example, there's other examples of this in water sensitive urban design, but I've kind of like onto the stormwater objectives for this particular video. As an example, the stormwater objectives were a completely logical first step in the right direction at that time, but we know enough now that I believe the logical decision is to go, you know what, the way those current objectives are, in terms of what they target, the way they incentivize or disincentivize practice, the way they're written, the thresholds, what development they apply and what they don't apply to, we now know enough to say they are demonstrably wrong, and we need to change course in a significant way. Not just tweaking around the edge by going, oh, let's keep the same objectives, but let's consider some offsite solutions, or let's change the thresholds a little. No, I think the lesson from Gary, from being proud to change direction, and it shouldn't be taken, this is the important bit here. It's the proud word when Gary says this. It's not like he's just saying, oh, you need to change direction when you are in business. No, Gary's going, I am proud to change direction. And I think this is why, because you can be proud if you can go, hey, we did this for a logical reason, it worked and did good stuff, but now it's not. We should all collectively be proud if we can make that call, stand up and go, it was right, it's now not so right, let's change. And we can be really proud of that. And so that's what I took away from that statement from Gary, and I really like it. And I'd like to say thank you to him, actually. Thank you, Gary, for everything that you continue to share on YouTube, because you might be speaking in a business space, but because you mix up, this is a hark back to my last episode, because you mix up the clouds and the dirt, there is stuff that we can take across to other fields that are completely unrelated to business, and that's really cool. Okay, sweet. To you, the audience, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you got something out of that. I'd love to hear your feedback. As always, here's the thing. These episodes get better if we get to interact, if we get to answer your questions, if we get to bring you on the show because you have ideas or thoughts you'd like to share. So if something here resonated with you and you're like, I can add to that. Or if you're like, nah, that makes no sense, and you'd like to discuss it, hit me up. You can find us, hit me up and go, hey, I want to discuss it. I'll put you on the episode. I promise you, I'll put you on. What have I just done? You can find us in a few ways. www.ideanthro.com is one way. There's a contact us page there. You can find the details, hit us up that way. You can find us on YouTube. Hit us up in the comments below. And you can find us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Ideanthro. Comments below the videos. Sweet. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good day. We'll see you next time.